Many knew Jack Valenti for his work at the Motion Picture Association of America, but he was also a tireless humanitarian, an advocate for those suffering the effects of poverty and disease across the globe.
I remember once, right before or at the time that he was getting ready to retire, he asked if he could come up and get an intensive briefing from me about some of the things we were doing in HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And he had that Jack Valenti gleam in his eye that this was something that he really wanted to pursue. And he came, we discussed it, and he had, I guess, already made up his mind, but he was really convinced after that that he wanted to devote the next level of a very long career to helping people throughout the world.
Few who knew him well were surprised.
I don't think anyone who knew Jack Valenti can say they knew anybody like him. He was an original. He was a great man.
We were always taught the essence of what Jack is about, that you approach your creativity with humility and your success with grace. And that's what Jack had, grace.
As a relentless spokesman for those ravaged by disease, Jack Valenti navigated the halls of Congress in Washington with the skill, eloquence, and persuasion of a statesman.
It was very difficult to say no to Jack. I think almost always we said yes.
So he'd say, I want to come in, and I'm coming in to lobby you on an issue. Came in, gave his side of the story, and in all fairness then gave the other side of the story. He said, you'll have to judge.
His efforts were all to ensure that the wealthiest nation on earth made the commitment required to save millions of lives. Jack Valenti's advocacy and ability to persuade changed people, changed laws, and produced results.
He was determined to rid this globe of HIV, AIDS, TB, malaria. And when he came into the room to talk about this issue, he filled the room with his energy, his wisdom, his commitment, his passion, and his overall joie de vivre.
Jack was particularly moved by the plight of suffering children, which drove him into action. So deep was his conviction to lend a helping hand that in July of 2006, he embarked on a 5-day trip to South Africa. He wanted to witness firsthand the tragic impact of global disease on children. Jack Valenti made a difference in the lives of millions around the world who never knew him, but those lucky enough to call him a friend remember his passion for life, generosity, sense of humor, and the indelible impression he made on others.
Jack's one of his many retirement parties. I told the story of getting a call from my mother once. She said, I've just seen that nice young man on television. I said, young man who, Mom? Well, Jack Valenti, of course. I said, Mom, Jack's 20 years older than I am. She said, really? He looks younger. And then she did the killer line. She said, you know, Patrick, you better start taking care of yourself. Jack loved that story. He told it to everybody.
Jack Valenti will long be remembered for his service to the movie industry, but his legacy will be that of someone larger than life, always eager to give the best of himself in the service of others.
I think the Friends for the Global Fight are the most blessed people in the world to have a man in front to represent them like Jack Valenti, who really, really cared. Not only cared, you know, what cared is one thing, but knowing how to get it done.
I believe that Jack's move over to the Global Fund was a natural course of events for him. It was a perfect complement to his life.
It is interesting with a career like his. When he retired from the MPA, he could have just relaxed and done nothing. He just took on one more good cause. I asked him once why. He said, what's the right thing to do?
At a time when most have already retired, Jack Valenti began to write a new chapter in the book of his extraordinary life. The final chapter that put a human face on millions who die every year from disease. An epilogue that showed Jack's true and unwavering compassion.
If we stand mute and inert and we really don't get involved, then one day there's going to be appearing in your mind a picture of a little boy 3 or 4 years old, or a little girl 3 or 4 years old, doomed to death, who didn't have to die. Now, how would you feel about that?